Okay, but
Okay.
now we're in the video, so we can start talking like we're in the video.
Okay,
Deal?
that sounds like a plan. Yeah, that's a deal.
Okay, great. Welcome back to the next breakdown episode. And today we will mainly talk about the Prague Duel Commander event we've been to last weekend. Today is Wednesday by the time we record this, and we had a great trip, and we explored the Czech metagame once again. But we will also take a look at the general meta. From now on, I think it's 2 weeks until the next ban update or format update. And probably many people, many players will expect Raffine to go at some point. I've already said that in the beginning, or when I was talking with Samuel Kinky, who's, by the way, as always, accompanying me.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, I was just thinking, but people should have already got it from the introduction. Anyways, yeah, so Raffine was some kind of a hot debate, I think, at least for some time. But if you look at the recent events, there was every now and then Raffine at top 8 or top 16, and it's a powerful deck. But I like the fact that it enables Esper Tempo as an archetype. Like, Tempo is most often covered by Izzet, and we haven't really seen something going in an Esper direction before the print of Raffine. So I really like that fact, and it's definitely it's a strong deck, but it's beatable, so I have no problems to keep it in a format. That's why I would expect, apart from Raffine, I wouldn't expect any card to leave currently. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Raffine is a strong deck. It kind of, when partners were still playable, we did quite a bit of explore. We had a player in our meta, and we ourselves did a little bit too. Experimented with Tumna and Zilas and or Ishai to kind of try to have that kind of Esper tempo, which by the 99s, like considering like what's playable, what's allowed, is a pretty strong deck, and Raffine is the first card that enables that kind of deck to come together with a good command zone. Because Aminato definitely doesn't enable that kind of game plan, but Raffine is pretty good by making your 1/1s into 2/2s and 3/3s with a trigger, and yeah, being able to play a pretty good tempo plan.
I just remembered we missed one combination which wasn't around for too long, which was Ezio and Tumna, actually. That was a similar shell.
We were experimenting with that as soon as that came out, but yeah, there were a lot of bans happened, and there were better combinations before it ended up coming out. Before we ended up being able to play them a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so apart from that, we see all kinds of decks. I don't really recall a situation in which the metagame is as diverse as it is now, and that's also exactly what we witnessed at the Prague event last weekend. Since I think, the metagame was quite interesting, the overall metagame. There were like 6 Leobalds, which is something we usually only experience in Germany, to be honest, because yeah, that people used to be hyped for Leobold over here. Apparently there was Shorikai, now there is Raffine, and there are also some other commanders that are drawing cards, for example Sithis, that at some point people seem to make the decision that Leobold would be a good commander again, because it comes as some kind of stacks commander in the command zone against certain other strategies. And apparently one of these Leobolds even managed to go to top 8 amongst an interesting combination of commanders. So there's Raffine, of course, there's one Raffine, and there's Nefmezet Reborn, Yuri, 2 Hogaks. There have also been 4 Aminatus, I think, and I've seen 2 of these piles playing Reanimator, and this one in the finals did so too. And the finalist, or yeah, those are both finalists, Rocco against Aminatou, but Rocco actually won that event, and it's quite a cool thing, I guess. That's some combo pot. That's what I saw from the deck. Unfortunately, the lists are not yet available, but I saw some combo lines with pot. And help me out, how's this combo called with Vivian and the 3-mana dude that's putting
Planebound Apprentice.
Exactly.
Planebound Apprentice, yeah.
Planebound,
It's a combo that goes into basically a cat combo.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of cat combos, but the easiest one to drop creature-based is Kiki-Jiki and cat, where the cat keeps untapping the Kiki-Jiki by flickering it, and you get into that loop with a Karmic Guide. So with a pod, you sacrifice the Guardian, get a Karmic Guide, reanimate the Felidar Guardian, flicker the pod, activate the pod again on the Guardian, get a Kiki-Jiki. Kiki-Jiki taps, copies Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide enters, reanimates Felidar Guardian, and then you have both Kiki-Jiki and Felidar Guardian in play, which allows you to attack with infinite cats. And the new Vivian, the 6-mana Vivian, acts kind of in the same way, where you simply sacrifice the Planebound Apprentice after he puts her into play with her plus ability, and get a Felidar Guardian, flick a Vivian, do the same as you do with a pod. With the only difference being that with a pod, you need at best 7 mana and no.
If you cast a pod
6.
in the same
if you
turn.
cast the pod in the same turn, you need 6 mana and 6 life.
4 life, right?
You need to activate the pod 3 times.
Alright, yeah, never mind. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and with the Vivian doesn't need to activate for life. So
right.
So it probably has quite a lot of piles where you or game states or hands where you just come together to a board winning or a game winning combo. However, there are always troubles with decks like that. Graveyard interaction, spot removal, kind of stop it in its tracks, and you have to go off again next turn. But that's something that Rocco definitely helps with, having a creature tutor on a stick. You can basically spend a lot of your deck, a lot of the slots in your deck on ramping, and then you have a couple of tutors, and you have your Rocco in your command zone, and you put together the combo that way. I think I'll be interested to see the list.
Definitely.
And we were definitely surprised to see that deck make it so far, because it's an uncommon commander from a new set that hasn't seen a lot of attention yet. I played it in our tribal games, where it was definitely good, but I didn't expect it to make it that far. I definitely saw some potential, because having that in your command zone is definitely strong, and you have strong cards like Allosaurus Shepherd in the list that kind of prevent the counter magic aspect, and putting 2 creatures into play with your commander, which both are sort of relevant, is definitely good.
Yeah,
so there are a few aspects that are strong about it.
I would be interested if he also featured a Wildwood Symbiote. I would not necessarily expect him to, because if like 70% of the deck is leaning into some combo variations, there is either no time or simply no need to get another trigger, because that was a line Samuel didn't even bring up on the camera, unfortunately, but you can just search the Wildwood Symbiote with X = 1, and then you have infinite, quote-unquote, infinite Rocco casts for X and search for other creatures, and that would probably go more like in a value direction, so to say. But yeah, as you said, let's see how the list looks. It was definitely interesting to see that deck around and also being successful. I was surprised that Aminatou Reanimator is still so popular. I mean, in general, Reanimator is popular again, but we've seen it with more colors, and I was a bit surprised that people do not experiment with Raffine as a Reanimator commander too, because from what I've seen, it looked very promising to me. And a reason for me not to play Esper Reanimator would be simply to add more colors and do more shenanigans. Like we've seen some Golos 5-color piles that even lean into Omniscience with Academy Rector and all that, which is also cool and might be successful too. But yeah, it seems that they just love to bring back Aminatu all over again. And also interesting to see Hogak, to still see Hogak. So there are a couple of passionate Hogak players over there. And we talked about that prior or all over again. So usually you wouldn't expect players to bring such decks to a tournament in times in which there is like graveyard hate is omnipresent. There's so many cards that get rid of your graveyard, and these days as a Storm player you have to be feared of Endurance being cast for free against green decks, and there are Scavenging Ooze, and like I don't know, 60% of the decks are playing. It's just a random number. I might be wrong here, but like Urza Saga, and then there comes a Soul Guide Lantern, pops out of nowhere, and whatsoever. There's so much stuff to deal with your graveyard these days, and no matter what, these guys still have the balls to bring back Hogak and still give it a try, and actually it seemed to be successful, right?
Yeah, definitely. As I was saying before, and you were talking about it as well, there was a lot of decks that were just kind of incidentally using their graveyard for value, which is sometimes a bit surprising when you consider how much more graveyard hate there is. Basically, that's been printed. But, you know, it works, and that's also what enables Hogak to be around.
Right.
There were a couple of decks, or at least one deck that played Rip Helm combo, and that's always a strong combination against decks like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you just have a Rip in your deck to be able to stop dice triggers and synergies with the graveyard. Yeah.
True. And that deck was by the way was Elminster, which I like the card. It's a cool card. Personally, I'm not too sure about the deck in Duel Commander, but yet again, it shows like the deck did things, and it shows that most commanders have potential in Duel Commander, and all of us faced so many different commanders. Samuel, for example, was playing against Lightpaws, and to be honest, I almost forgot about the Fox. I was playing against, not Kelsin, Irina Human Tribals, and then there's not only the Will Lucas Lurus Storm deck. In Czech, players are more focused on Rogak and Zealous. That's some kind of a transition, I think, from the... How was the goblin called? Krag, right? Yeah. It's some kind of a transition from the Krag Zealous pile back in the days towards a more explosive Storm version. Of course, more fragile, but it can be way faster than the 4-color pile. And that's also an interesting one. I think there were 2 players. I faced one of them. And yeah, apart from that, just lots of decks that you probably wouldn't expect, but in the end, they still managed to do stuff.
And I think our good friend Vaslav played Storm as well. He gets progressively more drunk as the tournament goes on, which is easy in some decks. I think in Storm a little bit less easy. So I think if he ever decided to, stay sober for a tournament, which is unimaginable, then he has the potential to make it further than he gets at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely a strong deck, and I think it's one of those decks where it has the power to win basically every game. So it's only a matter of time before it forces itself through into a top 8 or a potential win.
Yeah.
By drawing the right combination of cards. It's definitely not underpowered. And I saw it go off against a Doughty Voidwalker on board.
Yeah.
It definitely has the potential to kind of combo around a bunch of hate cards. and it's quite powerful to have a 0-drop in your command zone to enable specific cards like Culling Ritual or Deadly Rollick, and yeah, that can make for some very mana efficient turns and allow you to play your tutors and kind of go off a bit quicker and be set up to win. So yeah,
it's a really, really cool pile. I like to have the Kobold Rograk as an out for some rituals, culling ritual, for example.
Yeah.
No, not culling ritual. Am I?
Culling Ritual is one of the cards.
Is it?
It's the.
No,
Wait,
it's culling the weak. Culling ritual is the 4-mana board web.
Ah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Culling the weak, exactly.
Yes, that's what I was going for. And there's also there are more. I think there's like a red one, Infernal Plunge. It's called. I think.
Yes, that's what it's called.
So there are some cool lines if you play Yorkmoth's Will in this deck, and these lists are playing Yorkmoth's Will. To have like your Rograk going back in the graveyard and then casting him again and add a storm counter and then using it again for another sacrifice ritual and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and apart from that,
and Rograk also fuels the graveyard for cards like for Threshold or
right, yeah,
or for
Underworld Breach, simply.
Underworld Breach, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's a combo line that you have in the deck. So a lot of stuff can come together for you to win those games.
Yeah. I remember a situation. Actually, it happened 2 times against the Storm player when I was playing an aggressive deck. By the way, Max and Will as a toolbox with Alluran combo, but he was putting down Rograk to block one of these creatures. And I exiled it 2 times with Deadly Rollick, and his plan was actually to get another count in order to go off with Underworld Breach. So he's not the happiest one to, again, getting Deadly Rollicked all over again. And if you wonder what we played, as I just said, I played the toolbox, and Samuel played a cool Dargo variation, as I think we will show both on channel in the future.
Yeah, I played Timor Dargo, and
yes.
Felix and I, we have a kind of an affinity for playing Temur decks. Both of our our first deck that we brewed together was Temur. The first deck I played in Duel Commander was Anima. And while Partners were still legal, we played quite a few Temur variants.
Yeah, that's true. Thrustus and Ludovic.
Mainly Ludovic. I think we played Crown for a little bit.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, so there's for the card pool, I have an affinity for that card pool. And Dargo is a very cool card. I played a lot of very close games and didn't quite make it through. It was the first time I ever played 33 lands in a Duel Commander deck, and I definitely think that was the right thing and it was also the first time I played a Duel Commander deck where I was happy with 3 lands on board. And after my 3rd land, I never wanted to draw another one, because that's all that the deck wanted to do, was to play Dargo turn 1, 2, or 3, and then play hexproof spells and a bit of counter magic to stop the opponent from killing him and push that damage through. And I had a couple of unfortunate matchups and a couple of unfortunate lineups against opponents' cards, and I wasn't too happy with my score at the end of it. But it's about the experience and
the things around that. Of course, we wanted to score at that event, at any event, if possible. But we made a few friends over the years. I think this is our 7th or 8th time, I don't know, visiting Prague, and the venue is awesome. The people are awesome. We had a really cool stay. We had great food, and everything is aside playing Magic. I mean, playing Magic is already good enough, but on top of that, it was just a great event. So that it made the results a bit better, so to say, or
yeah,
it took away the frustration.
Yeah, definitely kept the spirits high.
Exactly, yes. So
and we're now hyped for our next event here in Darmstadt.
which is in 2 weeks already. No, in 3 weeks actually. It is in 2 weeks. It's on the 2nd of October. Definitely interesting. It's one of the first events after or within the week of the next update.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what's for us to come. But
last time, I don't know. Was that last time when Asmo was banned?
No, that
was 2 times ago?
That was last year actually. Last year October when Asmo was banned, and that was a bit frustrating because people prepared to play that deck because it was a very cool deck. I've said that a couple of times. Asmo was just a very unique commander, but I think this time it's as I said in the beginning,
nothing goes that.
I personally don't expect something to go. What we did not see in Prague this time, because the event happened one day after the release of Dominaria United, so there were only a handful of players who played with not necessarily new cards but new commanders. Maybe because they haven't had the time to fully explore new decks. So they said, okay, for this time I will stick to my pile that I'm used to and make some metagame adjustments and see that I somehow get it through. I know that someone played Balmor. I've talked to the player this morning. He made it to the 9th place, I guess. And apart from that, I haven't seen a lot of new commanders, but I would expect some more on our event for sure. There are a lot of cool cards.
Yeah,
apart from the bird.
We've been cooking up a cool pile as well.
Yes.
So yeah, we're excited to play the cool new cards and see what people come up with.
Definitely. And I'm also not yet sure if I will bring up my pile again because I'm not fully satisfied. I've brewed this deck together with Matisse, shoutouts, and it's definitely better than it performed, and it has more potential. I also had very, very, very close games. But let's get back on track. Was there anything else we wanted to share with the community? I'm not sure. I think
something that I would reiterate. I said it earlier, but I think it's worthy to say again. The meta is very open at the moment, and there's a lot of experimenting going on. And at those times, it's always a good opportunity to also experiment.
Definitely.
If you have lists that you have wanted to try out, but they can't face up against a Minskin Boo or a Shorikai meta, maybe consider trying that pile that you've been thinking about, finish brewing it and put it together and try it out. Yeah. Now's a good time for that, I think.
If you're short on ideas and stuff, we try to provide some with our next gameplays. But apart from that, if anything comes to your mind, then just give it a try. Because apparently a 3-1 Cook has won the Czech tournament.
Yep.
I mean, the stats on the card are quite mediocre, but it does its job. I mean, it's a
3-1 Cook came out in the same set as Raffine, and Raffine has 9% metagame percentage,
right?
On MTG Top 8, and the Cook has 0. So that's the kind of innovation that there's room for in the format at the moment, and I think that's the kind of that's something that everyone
to be fair
wants to.
I've just checked it. There was another Rocco making the first place in a 20 players event in Brazil 2 months ago already. But it said, okay, never mind.
Still has 0% metagame percentage. So
it says like these decks are not included in a metagame breakdown because it seemed to be a special event. So maybe these were some restrictions, as it seems.
Maybe it was the Streets of New Capenna tournament.
No, there's like Keenan and Adeline and whatsoever. Sure. And this one looks more like just a Naya mid-range deck, but he plays well with Symbiote, so that's a good one. Okay,
and apparently
I think that's it already.
Yeah, a bit of a shorter one this time. Not that much to talk about. Thanks for listening.
Yes, definitely. But still, I mean, we just have to be curious for the next update. Maybe this time there might even be some cards being unbanned again, which would be cool. If you've listened to our interview we've had with the rules committee, we talked about some unbans there or some opinions on certain cards. So maybe we see something in that direction, but I have no idea. It would be cool for sure. And apart from that, as you said, we are hyped for our event, and I think there are also bigger events scheduled for October and November. There's another one in November for Prague, and I think there's also a bigger one in France planned for November too. So let's see. There are definitely, with Dominaria United, there are definitely lots of commanders to explore that haven't been put on the table yet. So I think we will see a lot of innovation within the next few weeks. I hope so, at least.
I hope so too.
Good.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, and see you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.